The Los Angeles Chargers were a team with big needs at the wide receiver position a couple of seasons ago. They had Keenan Allen, who struggled with injuries and was getting older and has since moved to the Chicago Bears. And they also had Mike Williams, who also had nagging injuries and was in and out of the lineup. He was since removed to the Jets and now the Steelers. So going into the 2023 NFL Draft, it was very predictable that they would select a receiver weapon to pair up with their QB, Justin Herbert. There's no denying that Herbert is the guy. He's tough, he's a leader, and he can make all the throws necessary on the football field. But now that we're almost 2 years removed from that draft night, how did the Chargers do with their selection? We're afraid it's not great. There were 4 wide receivers selected in a row when the Chargers made their pick. But how bad did they miss? We'll tell you. As just mentioned, the Chargers were in need of a wide receiver. So with the 21st pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chargers selected Quentin Johnston. It made all the sense in the world. It truly did. A tall, possession-dominant receiver who was part of a national title team, even though they got spanked by Georgia. Still, a physically impressive receiver who looked like a faster version of Mike Williams, perhaps. With Week 18 in the 2024 NFL season left to go, here's what Quentin Johnston has done so far in his NFL career. He's played in 31 games, made 20 starts, hauled in 80 receptions for 956 yards and 10 touchdowns, with 8 of those touchdowns coming in 2024. But before we go into further analysis of Quentin Johnston's first couple of years in the league, let's discuss the other receivers taken in the first round. And let's see who they could have drafted instead. As we just noted, the Chargers took Quentin Johnston with the 21st pick in that year's draft. And right before him, with the 20th pick, the Seattle Seahawks picked Jaxon Smith-Njigba, or JSN for short. We won't hold this pick against the Chargers, because of course the Seahawks picked before them, but it still provides context for the receivers taken in the first round that year. JSN was a great pick, even though he missed most of his last season at Ohio State with a hamstring injury. But his sophomore year at Ohio State, he caught 95 balls for 1,606 yards and 9 touchdowns. So it's likely his draft stock was based largely on his sophomore year in Columbus. JSA is a technician route runner, very smooth and sudden. He can do everything you'd want a receiver to do. He went into a very strong, offensively talented team. Since the Seahawks have playmakers such as DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker, and Zach Charbonnet, JSN fits smoothly in with that group. So far, with Week 18 left to play in the 2000 NFL season, here are some career stats for JSN. He's played in 33 games, made 18 starts, had 159 receptions for 1,749 yards, and 10 receiving touchdowns. Those are very good stats for your first couple of seasons in the NFL. He is emerging as the #1 receiver threat in the Seahawks offense, and is among the top receivers in the league this season in yardage. A great pick for the Seahawks that I have a feeling they would make again if they had to redo the draft. The next receiver we'll discuss was selected the pick after the Chargers took Quentin Johnston. With the 22nd pick in the 2003 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens selected Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Zay Flowers had a very productive year at Boston College. He finished his senior year with 1,077 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns, similar to JSN mentioned before. Zay Flowers runs very smooth routes and is a matchup nightmare in one-on-one coverage. Zay Flowers went into a very potent offense led by MVP Lamar Jackson, but also joined guys like Mark Andrews. With Week 18 of the 2024 NFL season left to go, Zay Flowers had a very productive career. In just under 2 seasons, he's played in 32 games, made 30 starts, has 150 receptions for 1,905 yards and 10 total touchdowns. Similar to JSN mentioned above, Zay Flowers is emerging as the top receiving threat on the Ravens and a go-to target for Lamar Jackson. Of course, it helps to also have Derrick Henry on your team to face more man coverage. The following pick after Zay Flowers in the 2023 NFL Draft was Jordan Addison, who the Minnesota Vikings selected with the 23rd pick out of USC. Jordan Addison had an incredible college career. He spent his freshman and sophomore year at Pittsburgh and really burst on the scene as a sophomore. His sophomore year, he totaled 100 receptions for 1,593 yards and hauled in 17 touchdowns. He was an All-American and won the Biletnikoff Award for the best receiver in the country. For his junior year, he transferred to USC and didn't have as much of a monster year, but definitely showed that he could be a top pick in the draft. Being drafted to Minnesota, it was pretty clear he would go into a good playmaking offense. Head coach Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback and wide receiver guru, so drafting Addison just added another gadget to play with. With Week 18 of the 2024 NFL season left to play, Jordan Addison has played in 30 games, made 27 starts, made 126 receptions for 1,717 yards, and 19 total touchdowns. Keep in mind, Jordan Addison plays in an offense with Justin Jefferson, so of course Jefferson will eat up a lot of the targets and yardage in that passing game. So now that we've highlighted each receiver in that stretch of draft picks from 2023, let's look at it closer and compare the numbers. When you look at the numbers, there are two things that jump out at you. Number one, Quentin Johnston has underperformed immensely compared to his draft mates. Number two, you can argue Jordan Addison might be the clear superior pick out of this group. He's right up there in yardage with all the others, but the touchdowns is what stands out mostly, having almost double than anyone else. And he's played with Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold. Even though it's in a much better offense, you can imagine what his stats might look like from a gunslinger like Herbert. Zay Flowers has gotten a lot of yards and has basically started since the moment he's gotten there. But that Ravens offense has always been a run-first offense. And now with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the backfield, you can make the case that Flowers faces simpler coverages. Jaxon has really burst on the scene in 2024. For those of you that play fantasy football, he was a good sleeper pick in most PPR leagues. Aside from fantasy football, he's a good outlet for Geno Smith to have in Seattle. He's sneaky on third down, and it's evident by the amount of receptions he's made this year. But remember, Jaxon was selected before Quentin Johnston, but it's still good context. Now we must further analyze the career of our main feature of this video, Quentin Johnston. We've got to be fair though. Johnston got off to a miserable start in his career. He went into a team experiencing a transition as the Chargers had turmoil all around them his rookie year. Unlike the other receiver draftees mentioned in this video, the Chargers started the 2023 season with Brandon Staley as their head coach, and he got fired later in the year along with the general manager, Tom Telesco. Aside from the team culture, Johnston's play didn't help his cause. He struggled with drop passes and getting open on his routes. But as we mentioned before at the beginning of this video, 8 of his 10 career touchdowns came during his past NFL season. So perhaps there is growth there. The entire Chargers team does look revitalized with new head coach Jim Harbaugh. But consider this, in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Chargers spent their 34th overall pick on another receiver. They chose Ladd McConkey, and Ladd McConkey has proven to be a key piece of the offense even though he's only a rookie. With one more game to go in his rookie year, Ladd McConkey has totaled 77 receptions for 1,054 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns, basically matching what Quentin Johnston has done in 2 years, just in his rookie year. Now, it's all hypothetical of course, but let's say the Chargers drafted Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers in 2023, and then went on to still pick Ladd McConkey in 2024. Any of those combinations would be 2 very good passing options for Herbert and the Chargers. But who's to say if they drafted Addison or Flowers in 2023, that the Chargers would have still targeted a receiver in the 2024 draft? Maybe that's partly why Tom Telesco lost his job with the Chargers. Poor draft choices. There are tons of misses in the draft, and they tend to reveal themselves fairly quickly, especially since the fans aren't quiet these days about missed draft picks, especially those who are first rounders and struggle. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to see more NFL content similar to this, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.